every company out there is now selling online. It's not like when it first started, when most companies were just selling in retail locations and some were online. Everybody is. So how do you make yourself stand out? And it's with your presentation. We're not just, excuse my language, we're not just throwing shit in a box, right? We are packaging it with purpose so that things show up and it creates a good experience, a memorable experience for the user. What I always tell clients and what I always tell new hires as well during the interview process is, everyone these days is an influencer, one way or the other. And if somebody receives a package and it's beautifully packaged and they get this personalized note and they love it, they're going to tell their friends about that product, right? And that's awesome. And that's exactly what brands want. But if they receive something and it arrives broken or damaged or mixed up or whatever it is, they're not going to tell their friend. They're going to tell anyone that will listen to them, and they're going to tell the world. So our goal is to make sure that the recipient has the right experience, so they're telling the right people the right message. So everyone's an influencer. You want to make sure they're influencing with the right manner. And that's the goal back then when I first started. That's the goal now. And that's always going to be our goal.
Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike.
Welcome, everybody, to Minutes with Mike. I'm very excited today to have today's episode my boss, my buddy, my friend, David Silbergleit. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
David has joined me on at least 2 episodes now, but I thought it would be a wonderful idea to kind of explore who he is, where he came from, where he started, where he's going, what makes him tick. And I think he's a little bit excited and a little bit nervous all at the same time.
You never know what's going to come out.
So here's what I know. Dave's an Albany native who went to school in Alfred or at Alfred University, which is south of my alma mater, Brockport. Not as good as a school as Brockport, but a good school. He attended Alfred, and I believe it was your first job, but got his start in New York City working at a PR firm. Is that right? What did you want to do when you were in college? What was the original plan?
So I was in college, I was big into the concerts, the comedy shows. I was really big into like student activities and stuff. So I really enjoyed putting on events, putting on shows, working that marketing angle. So, I started out, I did an internship at VH1 back in the day, followed by the following year I had an internship at Edelman PR. And then I got accepted for a job right out of college with Edelman as well. So yeah, you're right. My first job was at this huge PR firm, the largest independently owned PR firm in the world. Very cool. Like literally my office area or my cubicle area overlooked, it was on the 26th floor at 1500 Broadway, overlooking where the ball drops for New Year's Eve. And, for the first few weeks, that was the very coolest thing until you get used to walking through Times Square traffic every single day just to grab a sandwich for lunch, and you're dealing with that. But to all my friends back at Alfred or back up in Albany, I worked in Times Square, and that was the coolest thing they'd ever heard. But it was a great job. I got a lot of experience there in PR. Great team. I was on the sports and entertainment team, and just a lot of fun.
Then, and back to even earlier when I graduated, that would have been the dream, right? Like I wanted to work in public relations, and if I could work in New York City, and of course Times Square is the central part of New York City, that you're checking all the boxes of that one. So that's awesome. How did that go? How was the job at Edelman?
It was hard. It was a lot of work. It was hard. It was it was agency life, good people, fun clients with a lot of activities going on. I wasn't there for that long. I was there for about a year and a half, and then, unfortunately, that's around the time of 9/11. And around 9/11, there wasn't much of a need for sports marketing at the time, right? We had more important things to be dealing with and doing. And so there was a downturn. Unfortunately, there were some layoffs at the time. So I had built up relationships. So lucky for me, within a month of being laid off at Edelman, I had found another job with a small print broker in the city that knew of Edelman. They were one of the clients, and I got referred. I took a job at 3 years. I learned so much about printing, about outsourcing, about vendor relations, about sales. And so that was my foray into sales, basically. Went from there. I was there for about 3 years, and I'm going to talk about how young I was. I was there really because it was 3 blocks from my apartment. And anyone that lives in the city or deals with a commute, Mike, you have a very long commute every single day when you come into the city, but a 3 block commute, it's amazing. So I was there for, a little longer than I probably should have been, but I learned a lot. And when an opening at PIMS came along, I jumped at it. I knew of PIMS because Edelman was a huge client of theirs, of PIMS, and I was always the one that was jealous because all the other people around me were using PIMS for their product mailers, I'm dating myself again, for their blast faxes and blast emails and things like that. I think you used to come around the office because you were at PIMS at the time. Old colleagues of ours that have long passed from PIMS have used to come in, and I'd always see them walking around and having this great relationship with everybody. So when I saw this opening at PIMS for a sales position, I applied, and luckily I got the job. And that was 21
I
years ago.
I was just going to say, congratulations. I know you just celebrated your 21st anniversary at PIMS. It has
Yeah.
gone by in a snap. And again, dating yourself and ourselves, this is back, I think, just as this is as the world was starting to turn away from actual press release distribution, right? Which was the forte of PIMS, back in the late 80s, early 90s. That's what we did. We stuffed
Yeah.
press kits, we sent out press releases, and people were starting it into product offerings, right? Sampling programs. And we were getting our first taste of this new term called influencer, right? Creators or influencer marketing. When you decided to join PIMS, what, besides needing a job, what attracted you to the PIMS? What was it about the company, or what was it about the capabilities, or the world that they were working in, that kind of got you going?
What originally got me into the door was it was a company I was familiar with, that I knew that I would understand what they did because I was the client at one point, right? So when I interviewed, I feel I had an advantage there because I understood what the goal of PIMS was, at least as far as I thought I did. And what made me stay was, honestly, and it'd be the same answer today, it's the people. I'm a little biased now, obviously, but at the time, like, I had never been at a company where I saw the interaction between all the employees. Didn't matter if it was the guy in the mailroom or the president of the company, like, everyone's talking to each other as if they're friends, as if they are equals, as if they have a common goal. And that was such a unique experience for me, and such an eye-opening experience, that I was sold. So that's when I first started. And like any family, you sometimes get in little arguments or whatever with individuals,
No,
but
never.
it's like you and I always. But it's how you deal with those situations, and to see people, like, get in a little argument in 1 second, and the next second they are working on solving a problem. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's what really got me hooked, right? It's how everybody had a common goal of trying to find the best solution for the clients. And I am more than a salesperson, more than a client relations person, more than a operations person. I'm a problem solver. And I really like the fact that anywhere in the company that I would go to, that was the idea. The idea was let's solve a problem. Even if we didn't know it existed, let's solve a problem. It's that type of attitude that just sold me.
I think it also speaks volumes of your leadership style, right? Like what you've developed over the course of time is you locked onto that value and sort of not only made the company grow with those values, but also in leading the company and sharing those values, you create an atmosphere where people feel like they want to be a part of that as well. And I think, we're also lucky enough to share a mentor that, who hired me, who hired you, who kind of took us both under his wing and kind of, for better or for worse, there was good times and bad times, like you just say, but like sort of set the trend on how we look at things. And more importantly for you, business wise, since you took the company over from him, he kind of showed you the steps he took, the mistakes he made, the pluses and minuses. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Mark Glickman, who is still the chairman here at PIMS. Maybe tell me about your relationship with him and how that's grown and what takeaways you've gotten from him and sort of where that is.
No, that was the perfect way of saying it because everybody has a different style of leadership, a different style of management, a different style of working, but it's what's in here and here that really matters and how you go about each day thinking about everyone that you work with and thinking about what the vision or the mission of the company is. And everybody has a little bit different vision, but as long as you're focused on a certain, where you want to be, greatest piece of advice he ever gave me, which was fairly early on. So time is all relative. I feel like I've been at PIMS for 100 years, even though it's just 21 years. It could be 3 days though. Who knows? He told me, listen, you're going to have to go with your gut. And that statement scares a lot of people around here whenever I'm making decisions. I'm like, my gut tells me this, whatever. But you go with your gut and you're right about 95, 96% of the time. The other 4 or 5%, you'll figure out a solution. You'll pivot and change, but you have to trust your gut. You've been doing this long enough. You understand what the goal is. You understand the importance of the client PIMS relationship. Go with it. And he taught me that early. So it sort of allowed me to be freer in my decision making. It allowed me to jump out of my comfort zone and just make a decision. It also allowed me to feel comfortable enough getting advice from people when I wasn't sure myself and just going at it and having people poke holes in what I was saying because I was more open to it. So, he did a really good job of allowing me the freedom and teaching me the importance of going with your gut based on fact, based on opinions, based on taking a survey, but going with your gut to make the actual final decision. And I appreciated that. And he did that early on in my career. So it really allowed me to expand. I mean, when I started, I was just doing cold calls. And then I was able to use some of the experience that I got from my previous companies where I started being able to find more offerings that PIM could do because PIMS could offer because I had relationships with other vendors. Because when we have those partnerships, it's more than just a transaction. It's a common goal again. We're all on the same page trying to achieve something. So when we form partnerships with people too, it's that same mindset. I have to go with what my feeling is. I have to work with them with a partner, with a vendor partner, the same way I would with a client partner, right? So it's all that same mindset of we're in this together to find a solution. And he really helped push that message with me. He allowed me to take experience I had from the past and put it into what I was working on at the moment. And then years later, he gave me the ultimate opportunity and wanted to sell the company to me. And that came from having a very similar, not mimicking, but having a similar mindset of what's most important in life. What's most important at PIMS? It's family, whether it's your home family or your PIMS family or your clients and relationships with your vendor partners too. It's
Yeah,
how do we bring that along?
it transcends too throughout, right? Like, because you now have surrounded yourself with people like Ayla Anaya, who's the president of PIMS, that share these values with you. You know, Mike Ryan, your chief networking officer, Lisa Chen, your finance VP. These people you're surrounding yourself with share these values with you. So it makes it very easy for you to sort of point in a direction that you know people are going to want to follow,
Yeah.
that know that it's not always going to be easy, but that it is going to be the juice is going to be worth the squeeze.
You're mentioning some whether they've been with us for 30 plus years or 10 years or fairly new like Lisa and Alfonsina within a year or just celebrating. Alfonsina's, leading our client services, client experience team and marketing teams and sales, and she's just with us for a year, but you already sense that mindset. And it starts with the interview process, really, right? Like talk about company culture, and company culture is what are our core values? If you're comfortable in what you're doing and you live those values, then that's creating the culture you want in the company. But beyond the executive team that you just mentioned, I mean, we have Joey who's been with us for nearly 30 years. You have Andrea Busby, who's been with us for nearly 30 years. You have Ricky and Adam. You have all these people that have been with us for years, and you don't find that at companies anymore. And there's a reason for that. But beyond just the longevity of people sticking around, they have the same, I call the PIMS mindset, right? I was talking to somebody the other day. They were calling it, there's a certain PIMSness. I'm like, yeah, that's the PIMS mentality, right? Which is the yes, the I can do it, the we can do it, the we're here to help, the half our services were developed because our clients didn't know where to go. And we're like, yeah, we'll help you figure it out. Right?
Yeah.
It's that mentality. And we have that throughout multiple departments in the company. And that's what's super important here. And that's what keeps us going and keeps things flowing nicely.
And you know what else is unique? And I'm sure it happens a lot, but you know, you'd be hard pressed to find companies of our size where the CEO is vested in the people that come on board, right? You're not just somebody that walks by in a hallway and waves and they say, oh, that's the boss, right? You are involved. You're interviewing, you're reading resumes, you're making sure that the person you pick, and I've seen you take people that on paper look like they're a fantastic and perfect fit, but it just doesn't mesh with that mentality that you're talking about. And you know in advance this might not work, right? So again goes a lot towards the culture you've built, a lot towards who you are as a person, to make sure that it's as important to you as it is everybody that works at PIMS to get the right people involved.
But sometimes it's the opposite too. Sometimes you think somebody's going to be the right fit and then they're not the right fit. And
Right.
you have to, it's only fair to both parties to separate at that point,
Mhm.
right? To go different paths. But the key is for the future of the company, you have to have people that are the right fit for the company, right? That bring other people up around them, not drag them down, right? And I appreciate and I learn from everyone's going to watch this and laugh because I'm saying I appreciate those that are not here anymore, but it's true. Like I'd really try to learn something from every experience from those that are here and those that are no longer here, right? Like what can I learn from a situation? And that goes back. But I do want to bring up, like you said, I try very hard to know everybody. And as the company grows, it's much different now when we're close to 100 employees versus when we had 20 employees, right?
Mhm.
Or when we were first opening the warehouse and we had like 3 employees in the warehouse. I do try very hard to get to know everybody. It's hard to though, especially when everybody's working so hard, but I do try to because I always go back to one of my favorite moments in the history of PIMS, and this goes a little bit into why I do it, right? One of our guys at the warehouse who has been with us for, I think at this point, 6 years. I remember at one of our older facilities, I walked out during lunch to go grab a sandwich, and I see him at his car, and he's washing his car. And I said, "You're washing your car and just during lunch?" And he goes, "I just bought it. It's the first car I've ever owned." He thanked me, which I thought was weird, that he thanked me for it, but it's because it's for the first time ever he had a job that he felt secure at, right? He felt comfortable enough that he could take some savings that he had and buy a new car. And it just,
That's cool.
I wasn't proud because he said thank you to me. It was the fact that he had this opportunity that he felt so comfortable with. And that's the environment that you want to create. You want that way everybody will work as hard as they can for you as well, for the company, for the well-being of the clients. They all get it. But that was one of those moments like this guy has an opportunity now. He never had it before,
That's cool.
and made me proud. Yeah, and it's the same stuff you and I talk about it all the time. It's the same reason that that you have your sometimes 8-hour commute to come in, depending on traffic on the Taconic, but you do that because you care so much and you're looking at everybody else and you'd like to bring them along as well. Same thing.
Let's talk about this company PIMS, right? So PIMS has reinvented itself so many times, right? We were a press release distribution service. We were a printer of sorts at some point, and then we got into the warehousing and fulfillment game, right? Where we're not only doing a lot of e-com work and picking and packing, but we have morphed in accidentally on purpose, morphed into a company that is very different than what our original roots were. Again, looking at that vision as it started with Mark and the baton was handed off to you. Recently, and congratulations again to you and us, we purchased a new warehouse and it is fabulous and wonderful and gigantic, and we love seeing it filled up. Tell us how that happened. Tell us where you were when you started as far as what your expectations were for PIMS and our capabilities, and where has it gone to now, and where do you see it kind of going next?
Yeah, so we have reinvented, or not even reinvented, we have just continuously grown as a company, right? Because when I first started, yes, we were doing press releases and we did microsites, electronic press kits. We were doing a lot of those at one point. We've always been about the delivery, right? And the delivery experience. So where we are now with creating unboxing experiences, whether it's influencer creator mailers or even e-com fulfillment orders, it's all about packaging with purpose, right? And when I say that, I mean the most important thing for all these brands, because they're doing something. Every company out there is now selling online. It's not like when it first started, when most companies were just selling in retail locations and some were online. Everybody is. So how do you make yourself stand out? And it's with your presentation. We're not just, excuse my language, we're not just throwing shit in a box, right? We are packaging it with purpose so that things show up and it creates a good experience, a memorable experience for the user. What I always tell clients and what I always tell new hires as well during the interview process is, everyone these days is an influencer, one way or the other. And if somebody receives a package and it's beautifully packaged and they get this personalized note and they love it, they're going to tell their friends about that product, right? And that's awesome. And that's exactly what brands want. But if they receive something and it arrives broken or damaged or mixed up or whatever it is, they're not going to tell their friend. They're going to tell anyone that will listen to them, and they're going to tell the world. So our goal is to make sure that the recipient has the right experience, so they're telling the right people the right message. So everyone's an influencer. You want to make sure they're influencing with the right manner. And that's the goal back then when I first started. That's the goal now. And that's always going to be our goal. We're going to be able to grow with the number of services we offer, the locations globally that we're able to offer these services, the type of fulfillment, whether it's e-com, creator, retail, events, education, and sales teams utilize us, but it's still all about how do we create the best experience for the recipient. And that's where we're going to really grow. We're going to be utilizing, we work with brands to that utilize AI, and we help them understand what aspects of the personalization is best to access when sending something to somebody, because you want to You want somebody to feel like they are the only ones being spoken to, whether you're sending it 5 pieces or 500,000 pieces out. The recipient needs to feel like they're special. They're the only one receiving it. And that's our goal, to help them feel that way, right? We're an extension of that team. That's always going to be the goal as we grow, as we expand our services. It's personalization with the intent of making sure that people feel good about their experiences.
It's a perfect segue into my next question, operational complexity, right? Like we've been talking about our clients and their expectations. Where do you think, like, because our address is at the corner of the creator, commerce, and fulfillment world, where do you think clients or potential clients might underestimate what it is we can do for them? What do you think the one takeaway should be for clients about what PIMS can do to help their efforts?
That's a great question. And yeah, perfectly put, because for the past 21 years at least that I know of, we have always, we have always had to explain to new clients, not existing clients, because they come back to us for a reason, right? But to new clients, we've always had to sort of explain why it's important to utilize a service like a partner like PIMS. And it's that we, like I said before, we work with the intent of, and the purpose of creating these experiences. People often think that they can do what we do, right? Whether that's at the brand, at a PR agency, at a company, put some interns or some lower level people in charge of putting some gifts together for clients. At the agency, at the brand, those people have a job to be doing, and their job is not to be spending, hours not doing their normal job and just putting together a box and handwriting a note and things like that. People often think that anybody can do it, but you want to put it in the hands of somebody that's an expert, somebody that understands the value of what they're doing, right? The value of the perfect penmanship, the value of the perfect placement of something and using the right packaging materials around it. You want to utilize somebody that understands what your goal is. And with every job that we take, with every project we work on with the client, we try to have a phone call. We try to meet in person with the client to understand what their expectations are, as well as what their goal is, what they're trying to achieve. And that's whether it's a specific project, a campaign, or just in general. So we're really working with them on that. When we opened our warehouse, we had an advantage over other warehouses, I will say. And that is because of our experience where at the time, we really only worked with PR and marketing agencies, right? So we understood the need for flexibility, for working with the complexities of a marketing department's needs, the personalization of these projects, the customization that goes into each of these. So when we opened our warehouse, we actually opened it with that in mind as we're creating processes. So of course, like any distribution center, any fulfillment house, we have processes. We have to. That's how you keep things in order. But they've all been developed with the understanding of the need for flexibility. And so there are tons of places out there right now that offer or try to offer what we do. But they started out as a warehouse that, like I mentioned before, has this automation element to it, or they're just pushing out tens of thousands of packages a day, and that's their goal, and that's what they're good at. And they've tried to squeeze in these unboxing experiences, these marketing needs into what they do. And it just doesn't work, because what we do is too disruptive for their model. What we do, we develop with purpose, right? We were intended on creating an environment that allowed us to scale with the client, with not diluting anything that we're offering quality wise.
You said something to me the other day, and I wrote it down in my notes here because I wanted to ask you. We're talking about the new warehouse, and I think I had asked you, what if you had to pick the biggest plus of what the new warehouse does for PIMS? You use that term scalability
Yeah.
as it ties in with volume. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. It's just, it's much more space, and we have a larger than normal area specifically for our pack outs. right? Or our kitting projects, because that's our DNA, making sure that these are perfectly put together. But what this new warehouse allows us to do is set ourselves up even more so with efficiency, right? So we can take what we've always done and the volumes we've always done, which we've always made it work, whether it's, like I said before, 50 pieces or 500,000 pieces. But this new warehouse setup allows us to scale even more and to allow, even at those higher volumes, still a level of personalization, customization. It's just, it allows us to scale with the brands. But also, besides just this new facility, we have partners. We've had partners for a year. I mentioned it earlier. Like, I believe in partnerships, and we have partnerships globally, right? So the goal for me now, as well as in the future, and we have partners globally that we're able to fulfill the same way we would in the US, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, Australia, and it helps the brands that are looking to scale overseas. It helps them get the same quality because we actually go there and we train people, and we're right there and we're dealing with them directly. They understand how we work, and I only partner with people that understand the importance of what we do for our brands. But we also work with global brands that are looking to get into the US. So it's funny, the reason that we do some, e-com fulfillment, like that was, we stumbled upon that work. And the reason that we stumbled upon that work was because people were having a challenge of getting in front of the consumer and having it still be an unboxing experience, right? So that they'd be complaining, and somebody in their marketing or PR department would hear it and say, I don't know if they do this, but you should call PIMS. And we'd start talking, and we're like, we can do this for you. We'll figure it out. And that's what it's all about. That's how you expand. That's how you scale with a brand. It's, you figure it out together because you have the common goal, you know what's needed, and you do it. That's what we do.
Somebody who's watching this, they see us together and they know we've talked about what a fantastic place it is to work and what a great company it is, and your pivotal role in the leadership in that company. But what I did skip over, but I wanted to go to, is it wasn't always that way for you, right? Like, I know that, like, months, if not weeks, probably even days after signing the dotted line to take over the company, a little thing happened in the world called COVID, right? And uh, I remember walking into the warehouse with you when that first happened, wondering, as we see these reports on television about how it's unfolding and nobody knows what's going on and how it's going to reflect upon business and how they're considering closing down businesses and everybody's going to be working from home, something we can't do. And looking in your face and just, you know, I gotta say, from my perspective, you never showed it, but I'm sure there was a more than one sleepless
These
night.
are
Tell me about
permanent bags under my
yeah,
eyes.
tell me about how that unfolded.
Yeah. So yes, it has not always been easy, but I've never lost faith in what we do and what we can do. And I'm going to, before we even get into the world of COVID, I'm going to tell you about the worst thing that ever happened at PIMS once I took over. And I say that sarcastically because we'll go back to the Mark Glickman advice that he still offers me these days. So about a week after I purchased the company and took over, so I took over in January 1st, 2019, right? A week after that, got a letter from the town where one of our warehouses was that basically said, hey, we noticed you have a dumpster out front. You're not allowed to now because we have new ordinance, and that this shows that this is now a residential area and it's an eyesore. You can no longer have a dumpster. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I can't believe this is happening. How am I going to get rid of garbage? I am freaking out. You're right. Very, inside, I am freaking out. And I'm talking to Mark, and he's like, really? Dumpsters? And he got me, so I joke to myself, I joke to other people who have no idea what my inside joke is when I'm talking to them. But whenever a situation arises now, I'm like, It's dumpsters. Within 2 days of having to remove the dumpster, we had another plan in place and we were able to figure out how we're going to do, garbage removal from the facility. It was no big deal, right? Then let's fast forward about a year. And COVID hits. That is one hell of a dumpster,
That's
right?
a huge dumpsters, yeah.
But here's the thing, like and this is not me. This is you. This is Ayla. This is everyone we had in place on the management side and within the entire company wanting to do what was right. You close the doors, you don't know if you're opening them again, right? So we sat in the conference room and we didn't leave the conference room until we figured it out. Now we spread out, so we were not right next to each other in there. I remember that we all have
With
masks
masks,
on, we have everything. Still trying to figure out what's happening. But we're like, let's call every single one of our clients, because in the beauty industry and the fragrance industry, people started converting their manufacturing to doing hand sanitizer, to doing other helpful tools for the essential workers, right? And I needed to make sure that we could be essential. That's how you keep your doors open in this time. I was not going to be one of those facilities, those fulfillment houses that had to close their doors. Don't know if you're opening them again. I can't do that. So we started calling people. People started sending us their hand sanitizer, their other things. We started pivoting from doing influencer marketing kits to doing healthcare and essential worker thank you kits, right? And we started sending it to hospitals and to wherever they might be. And thank you to all the brands that were participating and helping. You were doing the right things for the right reasons, and we were able to help with that. So, we were able to be deemed an essential facility. I wrote up a document that everybody had to keep in their car just in case, because there's nobody on the roads.
We still have
right?
it.
Our New York office, basically everybody started working from home except for one guy who preferred to come, Joey, who's been with us for almost 30 years. He wanted to come into the office. He figured nobody else would be here. That way, if anything got delivered, whatever, he wanted to be here just to be part of it, right? And then we set it up in New Jersey at the warehouse so that management was 3 days in, 3 days off, or working from home. We had everybody else. We split the time. We went from a 5-day work week to a 6-day work week. I did whatever I could for as long as I could, where we were still paying people for 40-hour work weeks when they were working 30-hour work weeks, just because the other thing that was difficult was unemployment was so high and they had so many benefits for people that had lost their jobs, unfortunately, that it was easy for, I don't want to, this is going to come out wrong, but it was easy for somebody to collect a larger amount of money from being unemployed and not having to work, that I had to make sure that I was able to take care of my employees to make sure that they wanted to continue working. The positive thing for us is that our people care a lot, and it goes back to me, you, Ayla, everybody at the time, and leading with integrity and having this common goal and feeling a purpose, since we were helping with these healthcare kits, right? These wellness kits. But we stayed open and we got through it. And nothing has ever gone back to exactly how it was, but in some good ways and some bad ways, right? In the good ways is that people realize how much they need a company like PIMS, because people stopped coming into the office every single day and realize how beneficial and how much more efficient their work could be if they hand off to a partner like PIMS to handle some of their gifting needs, right? Where it's not as great, in my opinion, is people lost touch with other people. So it's harder to collaborate with clients because they weren't in their office. You couldn't go to their office every single day and meet with somebody, talk about the next project. It was, let's connect on Teams, let's connect on Zoom, let's talk on the phone, let's just email, right? But you lose that personal touch. And I don't think that has come back 100% since COVID, but that's one of my goals, right? I love meeting with clients in person. I love when I see the rest of our staff meeting with clients in person. There's nothing like it, right? If you can't be talking to somebody live, you're only talking about what you've scheduled to talk about. There's no overhearing and no shooting the shit, right? With somebody, no understanding what they're really going through. And so that never came back after COVID, but I'm working on it.
I wanted to talk about some goals of yours, right? Like, so what people probably don't know because they've seen you quite a bit in a panelist or leading a discussion on a panel, your public speaking opportunities. There was a time not too long ago that you kind of shunned away from that, right? Like you weren't necessarily afraid to do it, but then again, you weren't seeking them out. I think that's really taken a nice turn where people are able to hear your story like this, but also able to sort of get a feel for the company that they are maybe thinking about working with based on the leader that's involved there, just by hearing your take on things like, you know, AI and ChatGPT, or warehousing or supply chain management, stuff like that that you really come a long way with. Talk to me a little bit about goals, both personally and professionally, that you set for yourself for 2026 and beyond.
It's a good question in terms of how you posed it there. I mean, my goal obviously is to provide clients with the best service possible, right? That's always the goal. That's not just a physical service, right? That's also being able to strategize with a
Yeah.
client,
Yeah.
to hop on a call and talk about what their goals are. Success in my eyes is clients are growing and there is not a thought in their mind other than, who should I talk to about this? Oh, I'm going to call David, or I'm going to call Mike, or I'm going to call Kaylee, Dylan, whoever it is at PIMS. I'm going to call Kristen. Who knows? I want the first thought in everybody's mind to be, if I need an answer, if I need to talk through a scenario, I'm going to call PIMS, right? In 90% of our business is in the beauty world, or 85% of business is in the beauty and wellness industry. Like, I want PIMS to be synonymous with quality, with knowledge, with the understanding of the industry. And that's my goal, is to continue that path. We've been around for a long time, and you're right, it wasn't until a few years ago that we really started promoting ourselves. Like, it's all whispers about, hey, who do you know that's really good? PIMS. Things like that. That's how it's always been. And it was really COVID that opened our eyes to, listen, people are not in the office, they're not communicating as well. They need to see us elsewhere. And that's when we really started, which I give all the credit in the world to you, because you saw that as a need for us to promote ourselves, right? And I was always pushing back, and I'm like, people know who we are. Do we really need self-promotion? That's so like egotistical, whatever. And you're like, we're the best. People need to know that. There's new people out there that we don't deal with every single day, and they need to understand where we're coming from. And I said, okay, we'll give it a shot. And that's why we started going to more events. And that's why we started participating in some of these panels. And that's why we get invited to more places now. We're expected to be there because we're part of the industry.
Dave, as we wind down in time, I want to ask you this question. It's a question I ask a lot of the people that are on Minutes with Mike, and it's I certainly want your take on it as well. Is there is a kid at Alfred University right now in his dorm room watching this video. He's a junior, sophomore, senior, whatever he is. He has aspirations to run a business, start a business, build a business. What would you say to that kid who maybe is either stepping into a pre-existing company, or inheriting a business, or purchasing a business, or starting one fresh from scratch? What would you say? What would you say to them to encourage them to keep going?
I'm going to say what I said earlier, and I'm stealing. I'm not even going to be original. I'm stealing from Mark. Trust yourself, trust your gut, trust yourself and everything. Surround yourself with the right people, not people that will just say yes to you and agree with you all the time, but push back on you, and not push back on you for the wrong reasons, but just to give you honest feedback because they know that you'll take it. So trust yourself, trust your gut. Remember, it's just a dumpster, right? That's my advice. Remember, it's just a dumpster. Tomorrow's an opportunity.
David Silbergleit, thank you so much. If you want to reach out to David, he's available night and day. Would love to get an email from you.
Hopefully.
Uh, Our website is www.pimsinc.com. You can find all his information on there. All of our Minutes with Mike videos are on there, and a lot of information about our capabilities. David, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the insight.
Thank you. Before we leave, before we go, I just would like to say this to all of your viewers and listeners. You made me sound like a great person, and I appreciate that.
But you are, my
But
friend.
but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Like, I couldn't have done it without you, and I couldn't have done it without Mark, and I couldn't have done it without the whole team, past and present and future at PIMS, right? And I couldn't have done it with my family. Like, this is the support system that surrounds you that really helps. It helps guide me, because this is it's very hard, you know. And like I mentioned with COVID, I couldn't have done it without the people surrounding me.
Well said, brother. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.